Is really nice. And I keep forgetting what makes me angry is like this videos I see on YouTube where people are not allowed to feel anger. They're not allowed to feel victimized. Even when they're victimized, even when it's clearly they're being targeted and discriminated against, they're not allowed to do that because it irritates the sentiments of people from their ethnic group who feel like they're losers, quote unquote, if they feel something that they are not allowed to feel. They have to always be strong. And I think that's discrimination too. You're allowed to feel like somebody's discriminating against you if there's some grain of truth in it, if you're not paranoid. I think if you're African American and you live in the US, I can't call you paranoid if you feel like you're being targeted. I know Jews have been accused of using the Holocaust, of playing the victims, but they were victims. I mean, if a dog has been abused, you can't tell her, don't play the victim. She has this trauma in her, and it has to come out. If you suppressed it, as Carl Jung said, whatever you don't suppress well, he had this beautiful quote. What is it? Whatever you don't suppress will overtake, something like that. If you keep pushing things down, they resurface and they take over your life. So you need to work on things. And I definitely think that slavery and the violent oppression of African Americans and discrimination against them definitely had its impact. And trauma goes through your DNA. It's a cellular level. So I'm not saying for people to say, oh, I'm a victim, I don't have any chance, the white people are against me wherever I go. That's not what I meant. But there's a difference between admitting that you have a history of violence, that you have been oppressed, that you have been victimized. I mean, I've been victimized. I mean, I am definitely a victim of violence several times over. And it's in my history, it's in my DNA, and it's in my family DNA as well. And it's not because of my family DNA, but it definitely makes it even more difficult when it's in your family DNA and you're being victimized. So let African Americans feel things. Let them be proud to be who they are, and let them not have to deny their feeling that they're being discriminated against, when in fact they are being discriminated against. When people are afraid of a person just because of the color of his skin, when police people target these people, as they do in Europe. I've seen it, I have it on film. I'll repost it. I took a film in Germany where the police, I was on a bus crossing the border, and when you cross the border to Germany from, Switzerland, they only look at the IDs of one couple who are Africans. That's discrimination. And I asked them, how do you feel about it? But they're just used to it. They don't even fight it. And you can imagine, of course it affects them, but they suppress it because they have to live with it. You can't live feeling constantly anger. So they suppress it, deny it sometimes, but it still exists. Denying something doesn't make it go away, doesn't make it disappear. And what makes me angry is people like Candace Owen and her friend, what is his name? The police officer, forgot his name. And they're so the flag and the country and blah, 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 and patriotism. Well, Bob Dylan said patriotism is the refuge of the scoundrel or something like that. I mean, what the heck is... You should be loyal to your values of humanity, of human life, not of nationalism. I mean, you can change one country to another. What matters is human life itself. I don't think the universal force divides people into countries. People divide people into countries and groups and races. From up above, we're all the same. We're all the same. I mean, what's the difference between us and dogs? Come on. What's the difference? Oh, man and man. It's melanin. I like the sign that says, melanin is not a crime. Is it melanin? Did I say it right? Or melanin. This pigment that makes a person dark-skinned is not a crime. It doesn't mean anything. No, really good. I don't do this. I don't know. I really admire these people. I do very light, non-demanding yoga, and now I'm supposed to do meditation. So I'm watching all these videos because I'm really fascinated. I've been fascinated since a very young age, civil rights movement, and just thinking, I'd go in the South if I was living at the period of time, which I was born around that time. I would go in the South. I would go in those cars. I would drive there to the South, and I would help those people demand equal rights after 100 years after it was declared. They still didn't have it. And now we're in 2020, and they still don't have equal rights. They're still being targeted. And no matter what Candace Owens says, if people say they don't feel safe, they don't feel safe. If they're not paranoid, can't tell them they're being brainwashed, because maybe you're being brainwashed into saying that you're not allowed to feel things, that it doesn't exist. It's like saying the sun doesn't exist. You know, it exists. The sun is going to set, but it still exists. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm not doing a good job at explaining it, but if feelings are real, and what I don't like is people like Candace Owens or people saying, be rational, use your thoughts. Feelings are very important. Feelings are what makes people decide what to buy, who to vote for, who to marry, who to have kids with. Emotional intelligence is probably one of the most neglected and yet important factor in human life. So allow people to feel. Oh, I love the sunset. It's gorgeous. I mean, if Candace Owens and her friends were here, she'd say, oh, it's just a physical phenomenon. It's just physics. It's not. Your emotions mean nothing. But I enjoy watching the sunset. It's gorgeous. It makes me feel good. And feelings are important. And if a person feels afraid, you have to respect that. Now, if a person feels they're afraid of other people because of their race, that's something else. That's a kind of fear you have to overcome. You know, if somebody's afraid of a dog who does nothing, not that I'm comparing people to dogs, but if you're afraid of going in the water or whatever, yeah, you should suspect people. But if you suspect only people that have dark skin, you have been indoctrinated into racism. And that's not okay. But to deny slavery existed and impacted people, to deny that it's not in their DNA on a cellular level, the fear of how they're being lynched and murdered and targeted by even the police and the law, the agents of the law, of course people have a right to feel that way. Should they constantly be thinking, oh, I'm black, I have no chance, oh, I'm black, I have no chance, or I'm a Jew, I have no chance, or whatever, or I'm a woman, I have no chance? No, absolutely not what I'm saying. But you know what? If you feel that people treat you differently because of your gender, your sexual tendency, your skin color, or whatever, it's true, because people have prejudices. And saying people don't have prejudices is absurd. It's not knowing what human beings are like. Of course they have prejudices. Is it right? Of course it's not. Is it rational? Well, it's a mechanism that helps people